Westbrook Health Services has been supporting the surrounding community since 1949 and is known as an agency that is community-focused, people-driven. As one of West Virginia's 13 comprehensive behavioral health centers, Westbrook provides services to 8 counties throughout the Mountaineer State and became one of the first comprehensive community behavioral health clinics in West Virginia in 2020. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the generous help of the Sisters Health Foundation. This year marks 25 years since the foundation awarded its first grant, and we couldn't be more grateful for their support. Welcome to Studio 2121.
Welcome to Studio 2121 podcast for Westbrook Health Services. I'm joined today by Mike Veny. Mike and I met several years ago.
Yeah.
Behavioral Health Conference.
Yeah.
Mark Drennan had recruited you to come.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of fun things.
Yes, we did.
Yes, that was great. And then we had you back, Westbrook specifically.
Yeah.
You did some things for us.
That was a while ago, yes.
It had been a while ago.
And I'm back to do more at Westbrook.
Yes, we're very excited. Tomorrow you'll be doing some leadership training with us.
Oh.
And that will be great. And then, of course, we reconnected not too long ago at another behavioral health conference.
Yes.
So,
yes, I keep showing up at these conferences.
Yes, for some reason I don't understand.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it because thank you for the opportunity, because I speak on a lot of corporate stages about mental health, but I miss being in the community. And I felt like this week I've had in West Virginia, I'm back in the community, and people are struggling all over the place with mental health. So.
Yes. It is a sad state of affairs. I don't know if COVID exacerbated it. Maybe people are just more willing to get help now and be open, which that's a good part.
Yeah.
But your story is a great story, and I don't know how much you want to share today. We're just really here to talk about mental health, but I know that you're an inspiration for a lot of people and the things that you've overcome, and we love having you here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've to the people out there, hello. I live with mental health challenges. In one sense, you can call it mental illness, and it's so interesting terms we use, and it's such a very important thing when tackling stigma. But there's serious mental illness, and then there's mental health challenges, and I think I'm somewhere in the middle. It depends on the day, but I've been hospitalized for mine, so I would call that on the mental illness portion. And I battle with depression, major depressive disorder. And I want to say something about that, because a lot of people, we're smiling at each other, right? We could both be massively depressed right now, and no one knows it. You can't see it. And that's the interesting thing about mental health.
Right.
Well, you don't look depressed, you don't look anxious, you can't see it. And so I battle with that every single day, to the point where I feel like physical pain in my body.
Right.
I battle with anxiety and obsessive compulsive disorder, so I'm constantly just going in my head, and at its worst, it's very paralyzing. Like, it makes it just difficult to live. But when it's under control, I can live a fairly, dare I say, normal, I don't think we're supposed to use that word, but yes,
right,
normal life. And so what I try to do is, when someone is struggling with mental health, it almost feels like a death sentence. Like, okay, life's over for me, I've got bipolar disorder. And what I'm trying to do is show people that, no, it's just a thing. Right. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so you've got mental health challenges, you have allergies too. Okay, you can still live life if you're willing to do the work.
Right. Yeah, and part of your story that you shared with us is some of your coping techniques. And, that's one of the things that we did a podcast early on. I don't know, maybe our second or third one, I had a therapist in here, and we talked about depression. And I actually learned from that podcast that depression can cause physical pain, which was interesting to me. And then, we talked about different type of coping skills and different things. And for you, it was drumming.
It was, yes. And actually, can I tell you about another one before we get to the drumming?
Absolutely.
I was here on time. We can verify that. I was here on time for this. There's a park near here with a pond.
Yes, our city park.
I was in that park for about 25 minutes.
Okay.
Sitting at a bench with my eyes closed, meditating. I meditate for 20 minutes twice a day. And to just shut your brain off for 20 minutes, oh my God, it's the greatest gift you can give yourself. It's pretty amazing. And that's one of the many things that I do. But drumming helped me because it was, I got to move and hit stuff. And it became my career. I became a professional drummer because of my mental health. And nowadays, I still play drums. Mm-hmm. Not as much. I do a lot in New York City. I'm a bar musician. Like, that's who you're talking to right here, bar musician. And I also do drumming in the workplace with people, but I enjoy it because when we do art, you know, art is a conversation, I feel like. If you're looking at a painting, you're looking at the conversation the artist is having with themselves on a mural or on a canvas. If you listen to music, you're listening to the conversations musicians are having with themselves. But guess what? When it comes to mental health, you're dealing with conversations with yourself.
Right.
So there's this nice blend when you put art with mental health that really gives people a nice road to expression.
Yeah, you know, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And that the park you mentioned, after this, I will be there running.
Oh, okay.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I'll do some warm-up laps there, and then the cemetery across the street, there's a big hill right beside it. I'm going to do hill repeats up and down that hill.
Okay, so that is your coping.
That's my coping skills, yes.
Wow.
Is
Okay.
running.
So you get that runner's high.
Yes.
I've heard about it. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm too afraid.
Yeah. I did my first marathon in November, and
Congratulations.
I enjoyed it. I'm ready to do another one.
That's
Yeah.
hardcore. Okay.
Yeah, so I train. My daughter's a runner.
Yeah.
She's runs at the University of Richmond, and after our seminar with you tomorrow, I'm heading down to Raleigh, North Carolina. She's going to track meet, so I get to watch her run tomorrow evening. So I'm excited about that.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I think that's great, and I think, you know, we both have our own thing
Yeah.
that we do, and in life sometimes when people don't have a thing, they end up doing anything, which could mean substance misuse or just other maladaptive behaviors, we'll say.
Right.
So this is why it's important to find your thing.
Yeah, definitely. It is very important. So you got some exciting things planned for us tomorrow?
Oh my gosh, do I? Yes, because this video is coming out after,
Right.
and this
Yep.
podcast is coming out after. Basically, there is a term that has been used over the past 3 years all over the internet, self-care.
Yes.
And honestly, I see it, I roll my eyes. I'm like, seriously? I think people say self-care, it's like, okay, I got to do mindfulness, I know, and yoga. But self-care is anything that you do for your health when you're not in the presence of a medical professional. If you wash your hands, it's self-care.
Right.
And for so many people who work in the behavioral health field, they do a lot of caring for others, but their own mental health. So tomorrow is really about them. The core of the day is developing a self-care plan for yourself.
Yeah.
And what does that like really look like? And it's going to get interesting because lots of emotions come out. Like some people get real silly. You know, some people get like really, they go internal and they shut down. But we're going to be talking about stuff, and everyone's going to be able to talk about their self-care plan and show it to each other. So this is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting. One of the things we've been working as an agency that could tie into this a little bit, so I think they could relate to it pretty well. We had the unfortunate circumstance of an individual that was able to complete suicide. And when we went back and looked through the charts, we failed this person as an agency. We didn't do a good job recognizing, we didn't do a good job creating a good safety plan. So we are revamping how we do our intake process, and we are revamping how we identify individuals that need a crisis plan and what a good crisis plan looks like. So there's a lot of individuals involved in that process. So I think this will then tie right into how you not do that for someone else, but do it for yourself.
Yeah, and I love that you're doing that. And by the way, I think everybody should have a crisis plan because we all have things in life, like we even have certain people at work that if we encounter them for like 5 minutes, we're just a mess.
Right.
So it's important to have a coping ahead plan. Like we talk about coping skills, but tomorrow one of the things we're going to talk about is coping in advance. How do you do that? So I'm excited to hear more about that.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a lot of folks in the room that can tell you what we're doing from that perspective and how we're making it safer for the individuals that we serve.
Well, I love that you're doing that. And as someone who has attempted suicide, I really appreciate that because when you're in that place, you know, it seems like there's just no other, you know, solution. And you could be the smartest person in the world, but when you're overwhelmed with emotion, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, all that flies out the window.
All flies out the window.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, it's part of the story that really is interesting for me about you is how well you have progressed from dealing with your mental challenges to being able to be in front of Fortune 500 companies and teaching individuals that run those companies how to cope with each other, how to do leadership and those sorts of things. So it's it's not all lost. I mean, if you're having mental challenges, that doesn't mean life is over.
No, it doesn't. Well,
Yeah.
let's take today, for instance.
Yeah.
I woke up and my depression was really heavy. I woke up at 5 a.m. and I'm like, what the heck is going on? I got a presentation to do. And I have plans in place for my mental health. So I said, okay, checklist, Mike. Did you take your medicine? No, take your medicine. I realized I didn't have water the night before. Maybe you're a little dehydrated. Get some water. Meditate. Go for a walk. And all these little things on a checklist to keep myself together. So when you are struggling with a mental health challenge, you have to be extra intentional about doing certain things that maybe someone who doesn't struggle with a challenge has to do. For example, every single week I go to my mental health support group virtually. I've got 10 people in my phone that I can reach out to if I'm ever struggling. These are little things that I have to have in place because at any moment I could spiral down and be in the mental hospital. So I think it's really important to have things in place like that. And fortunately, I've been able to get myself stable enough where I can run my own company and travel the world and somehow keep it all together,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I see that from the physical standpoint. I've actually got a certification to coach people in running.
Oh,
I did that recently. And, part of that process is you can go out there and run hard and push yourself every day, but you're eventually going to break down and you're not going to be able to do it anymore. You're going to have an injury. You're going to push yourself to exhaustion. So there's a lot of self-care things you even have to do around running. You got to progress gradually. You mix hard days with easy days. You foam roll, stretch. All of that stuff can be applied on the mental side as well.
Yes, and I'm thinking this is why I probably quit running, because I didn't have someone explain this to me. Yeah. But yes, all that can be applied. And fortunately, when I speak in Fortune 500 companies, it's such a welcome topic. Because at work, I mean, think about it. For all of us who work, you've got to be at your professional best, right? You have to be. Performance matters. You want to keep your job. But you could be battling something internally that's just taking over you. So it's really important, again, to have those tools, and I'm fortunate that I'm able to share it with corporate America.
Yeah. And that gets us back to self-care. It's the same concept. If you're working and pushing yourself every single day, you're eventually going to break down.
Yeah, you eventually are. And next week, I'm leaving West Virginia on Saturday. I'm going to Las Vegas on Sunday.
Okay.
Not for fun. I have to do an event for Sunglass Hut and Ray-Ban and close one of their days of a conference. But there's 2 days before I have to speak.
Okay.
Where I am just going to relax. I'm not going to be partying in Vegas or anything.
Right.
But I'm doing that intentionally so I can just take care of me.
Yeah. I had 2 completely different experiences with Vegas.
Here we go.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting. So, first time I went out to Vegas, my cousin played on a co-ed softball team, and they had an injury and asked me to fill in. So my wife and I went so I could go play softball down there. It was just the 2 of us. We had to travel to the Grand Canyon twice because the first time we went there, it was completely fogged over and we couldn't see it. So we had to drive there again, which is not a fun trip, by the way, driving back and forth from Vegas. But anyway, we weren't that stressed about being in Vegas, and we saw shows, we went into the casinos. Neither one of us are gamblers, so that wasn't really an issue. We had a really good time. So fast forward several years, I'm into powerlifting, and I get the whole family involved in powerlifting.
Wait, you do powerlifting too?
I used to, yes.
So we got powerlifting, running, and softball. Keep going, keep going.
Yep. So we qualified to compete for this one particular division organization in their Worlds competition out in Vegas. So we went out to Vegas, and I was able to take the whole family. I had 2 young kids at the time. My son and daughter were pretty young, like 5 and 8, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Vegas was a lot different when you're walking up and down the streets with 2 young kids.
Yeah. There's a lot going on.
Yes, there is. You're like, don't take those cards.
Yeah,
turn your head from this.
They say it's a kid-friendly city, but it's like adult Disney World. But no, I was there. I got to see Lionel Richie in concert, And I was walking through the Cosmopolitan Hotel, and I'm sorry, I just have to say this. I don't follow sports, but I follow wrestling, and I believe it's real. I'm just putting that on video. But I got to see one of my favorite tag teams, the Usos, at the bar, and I went up to them and was like fangirling, like, hey, I follow you guys, and I think they wanted to like kill me or something, because they're like, who is this person?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my Vegas experience.
That's funny. Is that the only time you were there?
No,
I've been there several times.
Oh yeah, twice a year usually. And my dog, I have a Shih Tzu. He loves Vegas. He's strange like that. He gets in the casino, he gets all happy and whatnot. I don't know. So
that's interesting.
But Vegas has very good food, and I enjoy doing that. So sorry, we just totally went off on Vegas here.
I went totally off wall, and I like the Cirque shows. That's my favorite shows when I go there.
Oh, the Cirque du Soleil shows?
Yes.
Yeah.
The acrobats and stuff. So.
Have you seen the Michael Jackson one?
No, I have not seen the Michael Jackson.
Okay, I'm sorry. We do have to talk about this because Michael Jackson had some mental health struggles, and there's a Cirque du Soleil show. Michael Jackson, all these dancers. But there's one moment in the show where it gets really awkward. You can almost like feel in the room like, what's going on here? They have a hologram of Michael Jackson dancing with the dancers, but he looks like he's like completely on stage with them.
Oh wow!
And you actually see how good of a dancer he was like he just smoked all these other dancers. And so it was just pretty amazing. So sorry to go off again on the Vegas shows.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you got coming up besides the Vegas trip?
The big thing for me is continuing education. Okay. So in this remote world, we're all learning things online. And we all had pandemic projects, right?
Right.
Mine was turning my company into a continuing education company.
Okay.
And so I got accredited by IACET, the International Accreditors for Continuing Education and Training. And I can say it right now, I'm going to be their co-host for their podcast.
Oh, wow.
So it's got me into this world of continuing education, CEUs, and I'm like, what the heck? I don't know anything about it. But it's been great because I've been able to give CEUs to people for things, and we have a whole team creating courses. They're going to be translated into 30 languages around the world. And it's just, it feels good when I create them because I'm like, you know what? I don't know who's looking at it. Like even this video and this podcast, I don't know who's looking at it.
Right.
But someone might get something from it, and it's pretty cool to imagine that. So that's why I love doing the work that I do.
So which licenses are your CEUs for?
They are for the IACET one is like this international one that's the highest standard. So basically a lot of governing organizations just take it. The American Management Association has the same accreditation. I also have the Society for Human Resources Management and the Human Resources Certification Institute.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so it's pretty nice. The HR people messaging me for their CEUs.
Yeah. We might. Well, our HR person isn't going to be there tomorrow, so took vacation, so she's going to miss out.
I'll have to come back.
There you go. Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think what else we have going on. We're working on our intake process and our crisis care plans. CCBHC, I'm sure you've heard that.
What is CCBHC? I've heard this.
So it's Community Comprehensive Behavioral Health Centers.
Okay.
It's a federal designation, and West Virginia was just awarded a grant to apply to be a demonstration state. So there's currently 10 demonstration states that started several years ago, and they opened it up for additional states. And we're hoping that we become one of those clinics that sets us up on a prospective payment system, so we get to have cost-based reimbursement. So most of the time, centers, when they become a CCBHC, they get to bring their wages up to market so that they can attract the appropriate level of staff.
Good.
Get to see clients regardless of payer source. You don't turn anybody away no matter where they live or what their funding situations. And the outcomes have been excellent.
Really?
And so we think that that's coming in West Virginia in about 18 months or so. And so we're very excited about that.
That's a really important thing because, the access to mental health care, even though like there are signs everywhere, just talk about it and all this stuff. The waiting list to see a therapist, and some people don't even feel comfortable. Well, I don't even have the money for that.
Right.
So the more people that get access, the better. I think that's great.
Yeah, and then, we struggle with, because of our low reimbursement rates, what person wants to come into this field and work at the pay level you're able to afford based on our reimbursement rates. So that helps a lot too. And I'm hoping that encourages more people to look for this field as a future. because it is an important field.
It is. Well, can I actually bring that up too?
Yeah.
Because in this field, yes, there's a lot of low-paying jobs or jobs that we wish were higher paying, I'll say, right?
Yes, right.
And one thing that I found is even for people with high-paying jobs in behavioral health, there's a lot of burnout too.
Yes.
And one thing I'm going to be talking about tomorrow is that you need to stay in touch with your why. And that's really the thing that's going to keep people in the field that I've seen for a long period of time, because at the end of the day, look, you can be making whatever amount of money, but if you're just drained from seeing clients and crises, it doesn't matter. So that's something I've learned, but I think it's great that you're doing that, because it's really going to put you all on the map too, more nationally, which is really good.
Yes, we're very excited about it.
Yeah.
Definitely. And you bring up your why. We're probably about 2 months away, but we're going to be kicking off a Why Westbrook campaign. We're going to do little short videos of clients and staff that talk about why they like working here, why they like services here, that kind of thing.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
that's going to connect with people's hearts. You know, my why is to support people in discovering what I call the gift of emotional wellness.
Yeah.
And that actually doesn't mean you're feeling good all the time. It means you learn to deal with difficult emotions. Like, you know, when I was younger, anger was a problem. I would have said I have anger management issues. And now anger's become my favorite emotion. It's actually become one of the most useful emotions I think you can have, because I learned how to work with it. I'm not afraid of it anymore. It comes up and I'm like, yeah, bring it on. So that's something that I hope to share with others. But finding your why is so important, and I'm loving that you're doing that, because people are going to want to come to you more.
Yeah. I've had 2 different whys in my career.
2 different whys.
Yeah, so, you know, most of my career at Westbrook was the CFO.
Yeah.
So my why was creating financial stability for the organization so that we could provide the services. So then when I moved up to the CEO, now my why is making sure we meet the needs of the community.
Wow.
So.
But you also can think like a CFO if you need to.
Yes.
Can I tell you something CFO related?
Sure.
I've been getting into financial reports because I'm the CEO of my company.
Right.
I'm geeking out on these things. They're awesome. You can learn so much. Sorry, I totally just went off track there, but I just had to bring that up.
Well, that is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for your mental health.
Yeah.
Finances.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things we try to work on, trying to, you know, I've always been buried in numbers and understand the data related to that, trying to transition to now looking at client numbers, client outcomes, you know, quality, all those sorts of metrics. And so that's kind of our next big thing too, is trying to nail that down. We've been working on goals, programmatic goals, you know, how soon can you get a client into services after intake, keep them engaged, how soon can you get them in the door to begin with. So those are all things that are important so that we are able to meet the needs of individuals.
I love that you said that, and I gotta say something about that for like anyone's mental health. There's a sign in my office that says measurement eliminates argument. In life, you can manage what you can measure, right? Like if you want to lose weight, well, you gotta measure what you're eating, how much you're going to the gym. And when it comes to mental health, though, sometimes people just go, you know, I feel bad. I don't know I'm just overwhelmed. But learning to actually measure, what am I feeling specifically?
Yeah.
How many days have I been practicing self-care can give you so much clarity with how you're doing with your mental health. So it's something that I think is really important for all of us to do. And there are lots of apps nowadays that could do that for you, mood trackers and stuff like that, and they're really powerful.
Yeah. How many days have I still been in bed and not got up at a certain time? And
Yeah, things like that. And some of them actually, the technology has gone, and you might know this, that mood tracker goes directly to the therapist, so the therapist can see, because sometimes when you go to the therapist, you might have been feeling bad, you know, for 2 weeks. But you get there and you're like, I'm fine today.
Yeah.
You know, so this way it gives a therapist more accurate reading of what's going on in the person's life day to day.
Yeah. I don't know if we have any therapists using that or not, but I'll be interested to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and that getting people in quickly is the same concept. You know, I feel bad today. We schedule you 3 weeks out. Well, I don't feel bad anymore, so I'm just not going to go to that appointment.
Yeah.
And so that's why you've got to meet people at the moment and help get them started.
And how do you do that faster?
Yeah, well, it's tough. I mean, having appropriate staff, having open access has really helped, because, you know, our old process was we'll schedule you an intake, 50% of those are no-showed, and so you have all this wasted time. So you just set days, 3 or 4 days a week with a 4 or 5 hour time slot. Okay, you just come in, show up, and then that way you're there, you're in. We get to figure out what your needs are, how quickly do we need to see you after that, and that helps a lot. The open access part has really been beneficial.
Awesome. I hope a lot of other organizations are listening or watching this right now.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to share today? I think this conversation has been great.
I think it's been a great conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, and thank you for all that you're doing here in Parkersburg.
Absolutely. Well, that will conclude our podcast for today. Remember, if you are experiencing a crisis, we're here to help. Please call our crisis line, 304-485-1725. Have a great day.